So I'm going to ask this question. Sometimes we get these and they're interesting. Sometimes we do, and we're like, I'm not going to ask that on the air. That's not a good question.
I can't wait.
This is one that I'm wondering what your response will be because you don't have an emotional tie to it. You'll have a more rational take with this, whereas I feel like Schulte might be the guy over there that just starts yelling.
Shut up about the sun. Shut up about the sun.
That is Schulte to a T right
That's Schulte.
there.
Like, does this make Schulte yell?
What doesn't?
Odds right now, yes, minus 150, no, plus 210, okay? Then we'll ask the question. We'll see how we feel.
If I ever make a teddy bear, it's going to be a Schulte teddy bear where you, like, tickle him, and he's like, stop it! Stop it! And he's
Nepotism!
he's just always mad.
The question came on social media earlier this week, and it asked the question, with the Ducks securing a spot in the Big Ten championship game, which the conference finally acknowledged on Tuesday, so congratulations, Oregon, 3 days after beating Wisconsin, you found out you're going to Indianapolis. And to the question that we got on a graphic we tweeted out yesterday, no, we are not going to Indianapolis.
Well, if anybody was, it wouldn't be the show.
No, I tweeted. It was a funny graphic we did with Sprague wanted to make it of me looking into Lucas Oil Stadium, and everybody thought that means that we're going to Indy. No, we're not going to Indy.
I have another graphic.
And that's coming. The graphic is
2 weeks.
fantastic. The question is, should we rest our players? I'm guessing it will be a hot topic. So basically on the premise of you're guaranteed a spot in the Big Ten championship game. You're guaranteed a spot in the college football playoff, essentially. This is going to be a thing. Lanning was asked yesterday at his availability, hey, Tez announced on social media that he's back. Do you have? And Lanning was like, I'm not talking. Stop. Like,
Lanning didn't like that.
Just was not a fan of the fact that Tez Johnson took to Instagram to say that I'm back because you should be reminded that Gary Bryant was back at practice for maybe a month before he played a snap in a game. So just because Bedford was practicing for like 3 weeks before, and then he got hurt again, so we never ended up seeing him. But just because you're back at practice does not mean that he's going to be healthy and playing. Would there be any thought to say this game doesn't mean anything? If we win the Big Ten, we're guaranteed a spot in the top 4. It doesn't matter whether we win or lose this game this weekend.
I guess what I would say, if you're asking me that you think I have no bias here, does Dan Lanning strike you as guy that's just cool going 0-4 against Washington?
No, he does not.
Okay.
Is there a smartness behind the strategy, or I guess something that makes sense behind the strategy?
It's certainly something looming. There's going to maybe be a team that does this. They play their final game of the year, and largely those are the rivalry weekends, and they say doesn't matter. And I know that's going to happen at some point. At least I think it will.
I mean, Ole Miss has already come out and said we don't want to play in the SEC title game.
Yes, Georgia has a benefit to not making the
Yes.
SEC championship game.
They
And
do.
what the committee does with a 2-loss non-conference championship team versus a team that loses their third game, fascinating. One of our good friends, Ryan Lishka, asking us yesterday, if Ohio State loses to Indiana, are they in the playoff? I really think they are.
Yeah.
Because I think Ohio State has the win at Penn State. They're going to get credit for a 1-point loss at Eugene, and so there'll be a 2-loss team who the committee has largely kept within the top 3 all year.
Well, we can share our opinions on Indiana. Indiana's also undefeated and ranked in the top 5.
And so
it's
that's a
not
good
like
loss, right?
That's not a loss to a 3-9 Northern Illinois.
So I think that they will get in, despite maybe saying, hey, they had 3 really hard games. They only won 1 of them. Maybe they shouldn't be in. It doesn't matter. It's brand awareness. I just don't think Lanning's going to operate this way. Now, does Lanning pull his guys going into the 4th when they're up 28 and it's clear that Washington can't come back? Yeah, that's possible. I know we don't want guys to get hurt. The sport largely puts itself in a spot where anytime somebody falls to the ground, Caldwell had this against Wisconsin.
Yeah, last play of the game.
Well, he had it
Or
before
defensive.
that, though,
Yeah.
too. He had it like the previous drive. He was down. And my first thought watching when he went down, they panned away from him was, oh, now Caldwell went down. What does that mean? He came back. He went down again, but he made a big play.
Yeah.
I just don't believe in doing it. It's not the NFL. It's different. They play more in the NFL. I personally am against it. It's easy for me to say my team's not involved. I think if you're doing anything, you're resting guys in the final quarter and saying, I don't care if I win by 14 or 28. That doesn't matter to me. A win is a win is a win. But yeah, resting a little bit, sure. Sitting guys entirely, no, I'm not for.
Well, I think to your point, the opponent has a lot to do with this. Like if you're playing,
He's 0-3 against him. I know that matters to that guy.
if you're playing Illinois this weekend, is it a different feeling going in?
well,
right,
you can
as
beat
needing,
them with your backups.
right?
Yes.
Right. Well, maybe you could with Washington too. Schulte, what do you think? Does that make you hot and bothered? The idea of resting guys last week of the season?
I mean, I kind of got to lean with Sprague here. It doesn't I'm not going to yell about it, so I think you got to take the no plus 210 line here. But it does make me consider, all right, what's the scenario? And I think of Dan Lanning ripping off his shirt and putting on the FUBU, F everybody but us shirt.
I think it's FIBU.
FIBU, yeah.
Excuse me.
FUBU was a different brand.
FUBU was that line of clothes.
I used to rock FUBU back in the day.
Yeah, way back when. Sorry, FIBU, yeah.
That's
every.
controversial.
Is it really?
Yes, because that was not really for
Anyways.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I had a FUBU shirt. I got it from a guy in high school, though.
Yeah, exactly. Not really for you either, or for me. But anyways, Dan Lanning's whole attitude is, I want to step on everybody's throat. So even with these implications, I think that he still cares about that. But really, the secondary thing that would kind of make me at least get a little upset or maybe a little annoyed by is the national media. If Oregon decided to take a break or put all their starters on the bench and then they lost this game, you'd be hearing all kinds of caveats about Oregon being a decent team. It's funny how Ole Miss is going out saying they don't want to play in the SEC championship game. Well, this is the format everybody signed up for, so it sucks that now you're bitching about it. You should have bitched about it back in June, back in July, but really, it really gives, if Oregon loses, an opportunity to other coaches, to the national media, to start poking holes in Oregon and what they've done this season. So it doesn't make me want to yell and scream, but it does make me just be like, they got to win because Oregon is just now getting to this national stage of, acceptance and prominence and being an elite school. So don't knock that. Let's get this win. Let's complete the 12-0 going into the
It's just not his DNA either. I think it's kind of why this is a moot point is no matter how we project how people feel about teams or coaches or whatever, this is not Dan Lanning. So, I get why you're asking. I think a team, again, is going to potentially do this down the road in our lives with this expanded playoff.
It's the unfortunate part about the playoff being this way where there's a lot of games that matter this weekend. Like, you got to win. Teams are fighting for their lives. And then you get a team in Oregon situation where it's basically set in stone and you're there. You're already in the Big Ten title game, so there's not really a plus or minus to win or losing outside of ending the drought against Washington and beating a rival this weekend. Yeah. So that's a tough part with it. One UW fan said, I honestly think Oregon can rest a decent amount of players and still beat us, just being honest.
No, I really do. Birch, you don't have to bring Harper back. I think Tez could sit out. And then Dante Moore plays some of the second half because he hasn't had his reps yet. You could do that and win this game.
Somebody said, I don't know that you need to outright rest anyone. Maybe injuries don't need to be hurried back, but kills me when I see a called Gabriel keeper that he takes for an 8-yard run with a 21-point lead. Maybe don't run the quarterback, please. I tend to agree with that. So he said, I would rather have one loss in the Big Ten game than have two losses at the end of the year. Talk about momentum kill, no rest. I think that one got cut off.
I also don't think people in good conscience can sit here and be bitching constantly about the NBA and stars resting and then say, A-OK, significantly less games in the regular season. Yeah, I don't want my guys to play. So you're against load management for one league, but you're pro. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, the other part of this
cannot be the same person.
No, and I also think Oregon's not going to do it. I did appreciate the question. I thought it was interesting that it was asked because I hadn't really thought much about it, to be honest with you. And then Tez had the announcement, and I'm like, well, do you bring Tez back for Washington? I know the passing game hasn't been great the last 2 weeks, but and you're coming off a bye, so maybe he's going to be ready to go. But also, that's a tough one to tell him no. It's senior day. It's his last home game at Autzen potentially. Don't know you can't play, but he's going to want to play. It's just they're in a weird dilemma in that regard. But I remember Lillard having a quote a couple of years ago when he was in Portland and talking about the way we analyze and view the NBA, where it's so much of it is on championships, and that's really the only thing that matters, the only thing that we talk about, the only thing we give credit for in legacies, and we just kind of slough everything off to the side. And I had that thought when I was reading this question of, I don't know if Oregon's going to win a national championship. I think it's harder than it's ever been, depending on the pathway. Eventually, I think they will get one based on the trajectory of the program, but I don't know if this year's team will do it or not. They got a shot to do it. But also the symbolism of going 12-0 for the second time in school history, ending a losing streak against your biggest rival, going 13-0 potentially and winning the Big Ten in the first year in the conference, beating Ohio State twice, like just what that would mean. Like, no, it's not winning a national championship, but that's damn cool, man. It's been an incredible year. And so I'm not willing to lose that and say, oh, we'll just go 11-1. Let's rest everybody. Who cares if we lose to Washington again? I want to get the momentum back in that rivalry, win some recruiting battles against them, which we're already doing, and beating them on the field helps. So 12-0 matters to me. 13-0 matters to me. And I wouldn't want to rest anybody. Be cautious with guys coming off injuries, but I think Oregon's done that all year. They're not rushing guys back. We saw Birch not play this week when it looked like maybe he could go. Tez probably won't play against UW, but again, that's tough because it's senior day. So, interesting question from a listener. Should Oregon rest guys going in since most of their fate is known going into the Big Ten title game and the college football playoff?